So, Sam, do I want mine? Okay. Hey, please repeat after me. Namo Miao Jue Hui Shang Fo Pu Sa. Namo Miao Jue Hui Shang Fo Pu Sa. Homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Wonderful Enlightenment Mountain. Okay, well done. Let me recite. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Thank you all for coming. My name is Heng. It is Monday, April 14th in the evening, and we are investigating. Let's see here. Going to boost my volume a little bit. There we go. We're here at Gold Coast Dharma Realm to provide some Dharma in the evening of our week-long Emperor Liang repentance, Liang Huang Bao Chan. And I'm delighted to be able to introduce some ideas that I hope folks will give me feedback on. And that includes people online. I hope those of you online, we're going to leave some time for questions, for Q&A at the end. So the big idea that we're working with is providing a book or some materials on introducing the Hanchuan Fojiao, Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, for modern minds, particularly English speakers. Because why? There is no such text right now. Now, English speakers does not exclude non-English speakers, Chinese speakers, Spanish speakers. If the book is successful, then we could translate it and people could benefit no matter what language. So, what's tonight's topic? Last night we talked about xiao dao, filial respect, in a world where people live often with single parents. And because mom or dad has to be out working, kids are often raising themselves, which creates a real challenge for this idea of repaying kindness. So we talked about that. How can we keep the idea of xiao dao alive in a world where the family is different than it used to be? That was last night. We're going to start on another topic today, which is what? Bowing. Li Fo. What is bowing? Also called Bai Fo, also called Ding Li. Okay, those are different names for it. This is something I absolutely had no idea was going to be part of being a Buddhist. I thought meditation was Buddhist, but here is bowing. What is bowing? Bowing is a ritual gesture. It's a gesture, it's a movement we make with our bodies, physically. You bow with your whole body. Put your head, your feet, your hands, your knees. What does it do? Outside, it indicates respect for whomever you are bowing to. Inside, it reduces pride in the self. It reduces the sense of the big me in the middle. So it's got an inner and an outer function. There is an Avatamsika phrase on bowing that goes like this: Li jing zhi men, chu wo man zhang, fa qi jing xin, zeng zhang shan gen. What does that mean? Bowing in respect purges the obstacle of arrogance, that sense of me, most important person in the whole world. It reduces that because your head and your heart are down at shoe top level, down with the worms and the bugs. Furthermore, it increases faith and reverence. Once you reduce, the more you reduce the self, the more connected you feel to every one and every creature externally. Furthermore, your own goodness increases. Zhengjiang Shangan. So, who would think this simple act of putting your body down to the ground, it has all these different functions. It's really an exercise that has profound psychological impact on you. Why do we bow? Well, there we go. Transforms pride, teaches respect, increases goodness in the heart. What is the traditional European view was the idea of pride is a sin. And if you can reduce pride, you're reducing sin. You're getting closer to the holy. The Chinese have this word, yi, just the character for it, and it's got some parts to it. There's a spirit, that's the left-hand side. I can't shoot, let's see here. It's this part, that's the spirit part. And this altar is very interesting. This is the word for beans. This is a plate. So here is somebody offering up food in front of an altar. It's a spirit offering food at the altar. So clearly, some sort of relationship to the spiritual is indicated by this word li. So why do other people bow? We bow socially, just courtesy, to show honor, to repay being honored. Power relationships continue. We greet people, we send people off when we bow. We respect the divine. We cultivate body and mind. For example, you say, oh, hello, ohayo gozaimasu. And then Japanese football players bowing to each other. That you won't see that in Australia. So let's see here. Courtesy. Get that out of the way there. Courtesy bowing. What is courtesy? It's like, for example, good day, sir. Hello. Right? Welcome. Welcome to the inn. Goodbye. Sayonara. Right? Different cultures express respect to guests, to seniors, to audiences. People bow to show power relationships, right? Yes, sir, JB. Yes, sir. In Japan, you close business deals with a bow. Notice her head is slightly lower than his. That's has to be that way in Japan. So, defeated kings. Here is one of the kings of Israel paying tribute and bowing to the dust before King Shalmaneser, who is pouring out here is the defeated king, and the winner has got a ritual chalice, and he's pouring wine out to the ground. It didn't work because King Shalmaneser cut the head off of King Joe afterwards, so it doesn't always impress the one you're bowing to. So who bows? Classes of people, religious people, Jains, Muslims, Jews, Catholics, Protestants, Hindus, polar bears and elephants, believe it or not. We'll show that in just a minute here. All right. Now, in Hinduism, we say namaste, right? If you've ever taken a yoga class, there's the god Heruka. He's got his knee to the ground, too. So that's a Hindu ritual gesture. Let's see here. Catholicism, there's bending at the waist, there's genuflecting before you take your seat at the pew. This is prostration. This is a Catholic kind of bow. There's one, you're showing the sign of the cross, for one. Monks were taught to bow like this. It's a ritual gesture. It's not exactly bowing, but that's punishment. Oh, goodness. Okay. In Islam, they do what's called salat, which is the same as salam. It looks very much like Theravada bowing. This is in hot weather countries, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Sri Lanka. Monks bow from the ground. Their shoes are off, and they're bowing on usually on carpets or on padding. So very similar to Islam. Judaism, you do what's called davening. Cover your head, and you pray before God like that. So Jews bow. Interestingly, we Northern European Protestants are the only ones who bow so little. This is as far as we go. This is George W. doing a Methodist bow. Bow the head. Right, dear Holy Father. Right, that's it, interestingly. In the Bible, these people are called stiff-necked people. These are stiff-necked people. This was how I was raised as a child. So, interesting. Every tradition has this idea of lowering part of the body as a way of showing respect. On the stage, encore, bis, standing ovations. Polar bears, look at that. Who would think? Oh my goodness, polar bears bowing. What else? We got dog. Are they really bowing? They're somehow. Interesting. Pigeons bowing. That may have a very different meaning, that one. I'm not sure. That one may be kind of like courtship, as far as I can tell. So, anyway, interesting how people and animals alike understand the difference in orientation of the head to the planet. Show ponies, dog, yeah, there we go. Cats, I'm going to eat you. That's a different kind of bow. Penguins. Show ponies, there we go. Even, believe it or not, in Sri Lanka there's a famous elephant who bows to the Buddha. So, okay, now that's kind of whimsical, but the point is that this gesture is universal, not only among religions, but also socially, in terms of business, all kinds of bowing. Now, in putting this together, I had my own research because, let's see if I can make that full screen there. At one point in my career as a young monk, I did a lot of bowing. There we go. This was an inspiration. Master Empty Cloud lived to be 120. He started in an island in the South China Sea, ferried across to Ningbo on the coast, and then started to bow and bowed all the way to Wutaishan out in Shanxi province. It's sort of like, I think it might be like going from Brisbane to Uluru, pretty much. It was 3,000 miles total, and it took him years to get there. Master Empty Cloud. There was a young American monk named Heng Ju, and his companion, Heng Yo. Heng Yo happened to be my college roommate before he became a monk. So I got a front row seat to their pilgrimage from San Francisco to Seattle. And I was impressed by their devotion. Every 3 steps, full prostration to the ground. And the transformation in the 2 monks, Heng Ju and Heng Yo, was profound. So I knew the Dharma protector, Heng Yo, pretty closely. So Buddhists have a variety of bows. There's full bows, Ding Li or Li Bai. It's called a 5-point bow, where you go down, place your knees, your hands, and your head on the ground. 5-point bow. We do a half bow, palms together, bowing from the waist, but just keep your feet. We do a palms together, similar to the Namaste of Hinduism. Also, there's varieties of kneeling that we do. So in my pilgrimage, with that inspiration, I started out in South Pasadena in Los Angeles with a companion, Bhikshu Heng Chao, and started bowing up the California coast, up the Pacific Coast Highway, Highway 1, and covered 800 miles. It took 2.5 years, and covered maybe a couple million bows. Bowing for world peace, and you can see how successful the pilgrimage was based on how unpeaceful the world is, which is to say not very. We were sincere in any case, and we had a number of regular Dharma protectors. This couple in particular, Mr. Lap Ha and his wife Goren Ha, got up at 4 a.m. in the Bay Area and cooked a vegetarian lunch, put it in the car, and then drove south. And they found us 6 hours later, just at lunchtime, with this family that had come up from LA from the south to make food offerings to two grateful monks on the side of the road. So that was, and that's me, and here is Heng Chao over on this side. So this process of making a pilgrimage, we did 8 hours of bows a day, which was about 1 mile per day. So the pilgrimage began at Gold Mountain Monastery, and how I started, I wanted to share this. So this is Bhikshu Heng Chao, still at Gold Mountain. We haven't yet set off yet. We hadn't started. Here we go. This is what I want. All right. So the quality of bowing here is interesting because when I got to Gold Mountain, I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, and I wanted to move in to Gold Mountain Monastery and start to practice. I thought I might have a future as a monk. I didn't know. And let's see if I can get rid of that. There's a way. Let's see here. Hide video panel. Hide floating meeting controls. Here we go. Good. So I asked my former roommate, who was already a monk, Heng Yo, I said, what's a good way to practice? What's suitable for me? How shall I practice? I said, 84000法门里边哪个对我最对机? The same question that everybody asked me. Which practice is the best for me? And because I don't want a bad practice, I want the best practice, of course, being trained as a shopper, right? So he said, well, why don't you bow to a sutra? And I said, what is that? I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, okay, here's what you do. He said, you're a speed reader, right? And I said, yeah, like most graduate students, I read 3 and 4 books at a time. I just kind of prop them open on their spines and wherever I left them off, and they stack up open like that. He said, yeah, how much do you remember from those books you read? And I had to laugh because the answer was pretty much none. He said, right, that's the problem with speed reading. He said, here's what you do. And he got a copy of the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is a big, large text. He got the Chinese version with the characters running top to bottom. And he said, all right, here, let's start page 1. He opens it up, does it formally with respect to the text. He says, here we go. First word, 如是我闻, thus I have heard. He said, watch me. And he goes, thus. And he bows to the ground. Comes back up. I. He bows to the ground. He's using a bowing bench exactly like these. He's not exactly touching the ground, but still, it's a 5-point bow to a bench. He goes, have heard. Thus I have heard. And I'm going, no way. No, it's so slow. That's way too, how can you, I read 4 books at once. He said, yeah, right. He said, put that all, that's worldly stuff. He said, you want to learn how to cultivate? Try this. He said, I want to see you do it. So I'm going, okay, well, all right. This is really stupid. 1. He said, meanwhile, every character, contemplate it. As you bow, put it inside your stomach. He said, just think of it there. You know? So I went down the whole line. 如是我闻一师佛在摩羯帝国基督比丘什么什么. And he said, all right, tell me, what did you bow? What were the first lines? And I said, well, 如是我闻一师. He said, yeah, see? He said, you learned it, didn't you? Like, yeah, that's really interesting. How interesting. Going slowly and breathing and contemplating at the same time, you actually acquire the text. I said, that's interesting. He says, yeah, try it. So I did. I adopted that practice of bowing to a sutra. And in about half an hour, I could do maybe 30 characters, slightly more. And I began this practice of, I just adopted it. It was my introduction to the monastery and the possibility of being a monk. So here I am, I still hadn't, I guess, yes, I was now a novice monk. I'd shaved my head and I had a robe on and bowing to the sutra. So, but then I asked Master Hua if I could do a pilgrimage similar to Master Empty Cloud and my companion, my senior monk, Heng and Heng Yo. And he said, he took a look, he said, no. He said, you need a Dharma protector, and he hasn't shown up yet. So, I said, okay, well, he said, just keep bowing to your sutra. Don't do any false thinking, he said. So, one day, the door opened, the front door, and I was at the front desk. I was being the greeting monk, and called the Zhike Guoshang. And so in came this young man, and he was interesting because he was my height. He had a blonde mustache that I used to, being a college student, of course, you want to try out a mustache. And he had same hair color, same complexion, same eye color. He was wearing a shirt, a Pendleton wool shirt that I had in my closet, but I gave away before I went to the monastery. He was driving a pickup truck similar to the pickup truck that I was driving. And for all the world, he looked like my older brother. And he came in, he said, hello. He says, this is Gold Mountain Monastery, right? I said, yeah. And the phone rings. And I said, excuse me 1 minute. Pick it up. Hello? Guozhan. Shifu? Did anybody come? Yeah, Shifu, there's a guy who just came in the door. Master Hua says from upstairs, anybody come? Okay, tell him to come listen to the sutra tonight. I'm like, okay, Master, what's your name? So the phone rings and Master Hua's got him on the radar right away. So the guy says, yeah, I can come. He says, I was over at a martial arts studio where I teach, and I saw this poster on the wall about a Great Compassion Mantra session. What's a Great Compassion Mantra? And he said, I had a picture of Guanyin Bodhisattva with 1,000 hands and eyes, and as I was doing standing meditation, I started to cry. And he says, we martial artists aren't known for crying easily. He says, it was very strange. And I went over and got some tea and came back, and I started again, and I just felt this pressure come up, and tears are coming out. He says, I came over to investigate what that's all about. I said, Master Hua says you should come listen to the sutra tonight. He said, sure, what's the sutra? You'll see. So that night, Master Hua, after the lecture, said, before we'd scattered at the end, he said, Guozhan, it's me. He says, when are you going to make your stupid vow? And I had already asked Shifu if I could do the pilgrimage 6 times. This is number 7. And he finally told me to do it. So I got down in front of the assembly, walked around with incense, just like this, and said, before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time, before the Venerable Master and the assembly, I, disciple Guozhan, would like to make a pilgrimage, a 3 steps, 1 bow, from our brand new monastery in Los Angeles, Gold Wheel, to the planned monastery in Northern California, City of 10,000 Buddhas, which we just heard about a month earlier. And so I said, I would like to see if we can bow for world peace and accomplish these monasteries. And so Master Hua says, Shifu said, what do you all think? Do you think he can do it? Do you think he'll succeed? And one of the monks, Hengzo, said, actually, he says, I come from LA. He says, I don't think he's got a chance. I think he's going to be squashed in a hamburger on the road. I know the traffic in LA. Master Hua says, nah, don't worry. He says, if you're sincere supporting him, it won't happen. He said, anybody else? He said, what about the new guy? And this young man who came in the door for the first time, turns out his name was Marty Verhoeven. He's from Appleton, Wisconsin. He was in the history department. He's a PhD candidate at University of Wisconsin in Madison, and he was a martial artist. He was had a black belt in Taekwondo and all. And he said, I don't know exactly how to do this or what, but somehow this is strange. He says, I think I'm supposed to go with him. Is that possible? So Master Hua says, all right, well, he says, you got to be sincere. What's your name? So just like that, the Dharma protector arrived. And within 3 weeks, he had left the home life, shaved his head. Interesting, lots of stories here. And among them are, among the stories here, this is a talk about bowing, but among the stories, one of Marty's prized possessions, was a Martin D18 guitar. This is the standard bluegrass guitar, and they were cherished and treasured. And he had used it in a folk group in Wisconsin that had gone all the way to the White House. And he had played for President Nixon at one point with his group from University of Wisconsin. And Marty went back to Berkeley, where he lived at the time, having made this vow to accompany me. He told his girlfriend that he was going to have to become a monk, and she picked up his treasured, cherished D18 guitar by the neck and swung it against the fireplace and smashed it. Lots of stories about leaving home. Then she locked herself in the bathroom and promised to commit suicide if he didn't change his mind. So Marty it panicked and called the monastery, and I picked up the phone. And this is 2 weeks after the initial evening, and so we heard another phone pick up. Master Hua had an extension of the phone in his upstairs office. So he said, "Tamiyang, what's going on?" And Marty said, Shifu, my girlfriend says she's going to kill herself if I don't change my mind." Shifu said, "Good." He said, "Tell her to kill herself sooner." He said, "That's a really good thing. That'll relieve your pressure, the pressure on you when you leave home." And we're like, could he really mean it, you know? And in fact, he was simply calling her bluff. Sure enough, she had no thought of killing herself. She was just trying to pressure her boyfriend into not becoming a monk. So Marty moved into the monastery. She is happily married, has 3 or 4 kids. And so anyway, lots of stories along the path towards getting ready to go bow. We traveled to Gold Wheel Monastery and down in LA, South Pasadena, and these are the very first bows. We spent the first month getting through Los Angeles from South Pasadena through Lincoln Heights, Chinatown, and then Wilshire Boulevard, from 1001 Wilshire Boulevard all the way to Santa Monica. Then, so LA is down here. Here's San Diego, here's Mexico, here's LA, South Pasadena, out to Santa Monica, met Highway 1 here at the coast. Don't know why this keeps popping up. Here we go. Then up to Central California, Lompoc, which is cowboy country. Up to, this is all Big Sur, 60 miles of wild, uninhabited coastline, Los Padres National Forest, with whales swimming by outside, to Monterey in the Bay Area, past San Francisco, up to City of 10,000 Buddhas in Ukiah. We had a 1956 Plymouth station wagon that we slept in at night because you couldn't camp along the coast. 57. I had been part of that generation that was interested in changing the world. We marched in demonstrations. We were activists. And my cohort went to Chicago in 1963 for the what was the date? 1973, for the Democratic National Convention, when the police rioted in San Francisco, and we saw our classmates getting their heads split by the police. And we realized that political activity, success in politics, depends on who's got the more money or the heavier club. It had nothing to do with your righteousness or your justice. So Confucius said, 克己复礼, subdue yourself and return to propriety, and you can change the world. Start from within. Gandhi said, become the change you want to see. The Buddha said, practice what you preach, and things will change. So here we are outside of Santa Barbara. Both Marty and I had permanent bowing bumps on our foreheads from putting our heads to the ground. Here is Master Hua. These are fellow monks. This is on 4th of July, America's Independence Day in Santa Barbara. Here we are outside of a place called Santa Maria. Here's all the monks and nuns from Gold Mountain Monastery who came down. Master Hua has a whisk in his hand, and there's a story within a story here, which was that a car had come by that day and made an offering of food, and it was marzipan, the candy, the dessert sweet candy. And in the marzipan, this person had added LSD, enough acid to really light you off. And I had recently made a vow to not eat sugar. I had a sweet tooth, and I had made a vow that I was not going to ingest anything sweet. So the marzipan came, and before this, I would have been all over it. But I took my share and gave it to Marty, and he was out. And it was because I was silent for this whole thing. I couldn't do anything more than just bow and kind of pray that he would come back to his normal mind. Just at that moment, the bus pulled up from San Francisco. Santa Maria is about 300 miles from San Francisco. And Master Hua pulled up, got out, we bowed to him, and Shifu heard the story, he pulled out a whisk and went, and you could see Marty, the color come back in his eyes, and his eyes returned to focus. He just took the chemicals away somehow, miraculously. How did he know to drive down to find us just then? So people say, what did you get out of bowing? What does it do? I said, I recognize my bad habits more clearly than ever before, and being silent for that whole experience, I don't talk casually as I used to. My relationship with my parents improved because halfway along, we realized that we were a lot of the purpose of the bowing was to repay parents' kindness in raising us. And I truly experienced that sense of bowing, reducing the sense of me in the middle, being the most important person in the world. Because when your head and your heart are down at the same level on the ground, you can't pretend to be so important. And further, all of the tension of the shoulders, if you're holding your pose to show the world, when you bow down, it all relaxes. The biggest muscles of the body, the trunk and the thighs and all, are all relaxed, and you're very vulnerable. The martial artist, Heng said, it's funny, down here on the ground where I cannot defend myself, I feel safer than I ever did with martial arts, he said. And you connect with people, strangely enough, people who you'd never seen before, you recognized family in them. Something about the bowing experience smooths out all of the differences. People start to look like family and friends. So I learned to like the bowing. My speech karma got challenged because I wasn't talking. And I learned the value of being a better person, and I could watch my mind move. We thought to bring, our wish was to bring the city of 10,000 Buddhas to life, to have it emerge. In fact, it did. So people, as we were bowing along the highway, we didn't have anything in front of us, and people would see us bow, and then they'd look ahead. What are they bowing to? And we told Master Hua that, and he said, well, you should bow to 你可以礼一个虚空佛，你可以礼一个法界佛. He said, bow to a Dharma realm Buddha. He said, you will disappear by bowing to all the Buddhas, past, present, and future. And he said, 动静一如, movement and stillness are one substance, one thing. To this day, that's still elusive. What does that mean? How interesting. 动静一如. Not there yet, still bowing for that one. Okay. Now, so that's kind of an introduction to the idea of this practice that we have. We are now bowing the Emperor Liang repentance here every day, and we do, 200 bows a day? 每天大要礼 200, 300 bows? How many? How many? No count. Okay. Anybody keep track? Anybody count them up? People get bored bowing, they start to count the Buddhas. So there's just the physical part of it, but some people want bowing 2.0, and this is a contemplation that comes from the Avatamsaka Sutra, and it goes like this. Familiar people know it. It's Nang Li, So Li, Xing Kong Ji, Gan Ning Dao Jiao, Nan Si Yi, Wo Ci Dao Chang Ru Di Zhu, and then Momo Pusa, 或者 Momo Rulai, Ying Xian Zhong, 我身影现如来前，头面接祖归命礼. So it's like this. You say the worshiper, me, and the one worshipped. In our nature, there's nothing really going on. It's still and pure. The way, the Tao, the principles between heaven and earth, and the response that we get from our effort intertwine in inconceivable ways, things you never imagine. Then this is a contemplation. We do it with our minds. It's not real. It's a practice. You visualize like a globe or a pearl in your center of your body. My body's like a precious pearl, and the Buddha or the Bodhisattva or the divinity who I'm bowing to appears within. And then you visualize, you contemplate your body bowing to, in that space, bowing to the being to whom you are worshiping. And you visualize yourself with your head to their feet. You take refuge with them, find security there. Then you let it go and it's gone. So the worshiper and the worship by nature are empty and still. What that says is, yes, this is just an exercise. I'm not trying to make it real. And the response that I get from my effort is inconceivable. I've got this precious pearl inside, this luminous globe, and a reflection of the Buddha or whoever appears within, and then I see myself bowing, and that's it. So it's as I say, this is 2.0. This is not an ordinary kind of contemplation. This is something that you need to have a quiet mind before you can practice this, but if you can do it as you bow, it's really profound. And the bowing becomes something more than just yoga all day long. Here are two monks. Somebody has offered food. You can see there's bread and Kleenexes, Hong Shao Doufu. There's going to be some peanut butter and jelly. This is our monks' bowls. We made a little altar. There's Shifu's picture, Master Hua's picture, some flowers that somebody picked. So here we are by the roadside. This is the layperson who made the offering. So that's how we ate every day. Okay. In order to, Sam, how are we doing for questions? Do we have a lot or a few, not so many? Okay. So let's continue then. I'll take you along on the pilgrimage. One of the aspects of bowing in this way is by the people say, oh, you're out begging for food. And the answer is no, indeed. We never ask for anything. What we say instead is, we are mendicant monks. We are alms monks, which is to say, if you would care to make an offering of food that is harmless, nothing dyed, vegetarian food, we would be happy to accept your generosity. So this puts the doing, the action on the donor, not the receiver. It's if you would care to make an offering of something that doesn't break our precepts, we are happy to make ourselves available to receive it. It flips it around. So at the same time, we are always, always grateful. And during that whole time that we were the 2.5 years bowing, we never went into a store to buy food. We lived entirely on people's offerings, kindness. So we kept the Buddhist ideal of being alms mendicants during the whole time. And further, you really get a sense when you put yourself to the ground over and over and over, you're aware of the connection between the planet and your body receiving nutrition from the planet. We can eat only because the planet provides us food and water. So grateful. Lots of Buddhists are not vegetarian. We are vegetarians or vegans because we don't like to take part in killing even as a recipient of others' killing. Compassion is the idea. The no killing is the first of the 10 evils. If you kill, retribution is the connection between you and what you caused to die, shortens your own life. It makes meditation turbid. So here we are. We've seen those before. Let's see here. We say, this offering of the faithful is the fruit of work and care. I reflect upon my conduct. Have I truly earned my share? We have chairs back here, sir. Please help you. There you go. Yeah, great. I was watching those knees. That's not easy. I reflect upon my conduct. Have I truly earned my share? Of the poisons of the mind, the most destructive one is greed. As a medicine cures illness, I take only what I need to sustain my cultivation and to realize the way. So we contemplate with gratitude on this offering today. This is the 5 contemplations that monks and nuns recite every single day before we eat. So we say this offering of the faithful is the fruit of work and care. So bowing on the highway is an opportunity to learn gratitude because every day we're receiving people's kindness so we could eat. In Santa Cruz, California, we had to get off the highway and go into the neighborhoods because there was the highway was no room to bow. And so we were on city streets, bowing north, and one Monday morning I bowed and came up, and here was an 8-year-old girl on her bicycle with the tassels coming off the handlebars, a pink bicycle with pink tassels. And she was handing something to me, and it was wrapped in wax paper, and it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from her lunch. She said, "Mister, you're going to need this before you reach the corner," she said. She wanted me to take her sandwich because she thought I needed more fuel. So you can just see the sense of connection. Then further on, up the coast in Santa Cruz, just out of town, there was a farm up on a hill, and we could see the driveway. We were down closer to the coast, and this gentleman came out of his house, got in a pickup truck, and came down, and you could see he was very shy, but he wanted to get closer, so he was watching us bow, and he reached into his pickup truck, and he brought a bag out. It was apples that he had grown. He says, I admire what you're doing. I wanted to help you out, That was it. He didn't want to say more. He got in his truck and drove away. So this kind of, this offering of the faithful is the fruit of work and care. You can really appreciate the power of being what's called a Fu Tian Sung, a field of blessings, Sangha member, as the Buddha set it up. I reflect upon my conduct. Have I truly earned my share? Ajahn Viradhammo is a friend of ours, an elder in the Thai tradition, and he said as he was a young monk, he could barely hold on to his robes. He had just learned how to put his robes on. And Thai monks go out with their bowls to receive offerings every day. His monastery where he was staying and training was in the forest, and he had to go by some farming families to get to the city, the village square where he would stand to receive offerings. And he said he bowed by this particular farmer who had a water buffalo in the rice paddy. And the paddy is about this deep, and it's muddy, and for some reason his water buffalo was unhappy that morning and wasn't listening very clearly to the instructions. So he was struggling with this heavy, giant animal, trying to get him to calm down. And the guy was coated and he was growing rice. This is what he did as a farmer. And the Ajahn Viradhammo says, I walked on the narrow paths between the paddies, and he saw me, and he stopped, and he put his palms together. He said, I was sunburned white monk, feeling like I was a pretender syndrome. And he said, I kept on walking, and I saw the farmer tie up the ox and then get out of the paddy and disappear into his house. He said, by the time I got to the village square, the farmer had hosed off all the mud, had picked up his wife and son. They had driven into town, and they were waiting for me. When I walked by, the very same farmer opened the bowl and put some steaming rice with a paddle into my bowl and then into each monk. And Ajahn Viradhammo says, I felt so that I really needed to get my sincerity together, because this man was being a much better Dharma protector than I was being a monk, he said. So we can see our places in the food pyramid and feel gratitude for the generosity. Another one, City of 10,000 Buddhas is up in Ukiah, 100 miles from Berkeley, where I live. And on Sundays, I would drive up in the morning and get ready to lecture in the evening, as just like tonight, for example. The lectures start at 7:30 and they go to 9. And I would finish the lecture, get into my Subaru, and start driving south, but I needed gas to gas up the car before here in Australia it's petrol. I needed to add some petrol. So there was one gas station open at 9 p.m. in Ukiah, which is a small town, and it was fast serve gas. And behind the counter was this very tall, bearded, swarthy looking gentleman whose name was Muhammad. And I saw him a couple times, second week, third week, but the third week he saw me come in, and he looks left and he looks right, and he says, "Are you Buddhist?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Buddhist." He said, "Oh, from down the road, city, Buddhist." I said, "Yes, yes." He said, "Let's talk religion." Oh, okay. He says, "Do you believe in God?" Well, And I said, "Well, what do you mean by God?" I said, "Define that." He goes, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by God?" He said, and in my bag I was teaching a class at the seminary in Berkeley on Buddhist-Christian dialogue, and one of the texts that we had was a text, I forgot the title, Religious Soldier of God, about a famous Afghani patriot who modeled himself after Gandhi, refused to go to war against the British, the Russians, and then the U.S., and he was a patient soldier of God was the name of the book. And I brought it out. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "My name is Mohammed. I am from Afghanistan." And I said, "What about this gentleman?" Showing the cover of the book. He said, "That's my granduncle." He said, so he reached out and gave me a hug. He said, "How wonderful." And so he said, "You know that Afghanistan used to be Buddhist," he said, "but I am Muslim." And so every time after Sunday lecture, I would go to Fast Serve Gas and go another round with Mohammed. And he would always say, "I do not take your money. I give you coffee. You take any drink you want. You go down the road on my coffee." So incredible. The next part of the contemplation is, I reflect upon my conduct. Have I truly earned my share? And to be able to have an interfaith friend at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night, the only gas station open in Ukiah, California, is something I'll carry with me for a long time. So of the poisons of the mind, the most destructive one is greed. How much is need? How much is greed? That's an important distinction that we make. I'm running out of time here. One of the worst experiences that we had on the pilgrimage, because we were by the side of the road, people don't know unless you are by the side of a superhighway, and nobody stands by M1 here. It's not wise to do that. But when a vehicle zooms by at 60, 70 miles per hour, kilometers, 80, so that much mass moving at that speed creates a vacuum behind the vehicle. There's, in the wake of a car, in the air, there's this empty space that's pulled along behind the car, and you can get a feeling for whoever is in the vehicle. Perfume that they're wearing, tobacco that they're smoking. You can sometimes hear the music or the conversation simply because there's this empty space behind the car. We don't know that because when was the last time you stood beside a highway where cars are going zoom, zoom? We did that 8 hours a day for years. And we knew, strangely enough, not only the smell, but you could sense the energy, the jingjie, the state of being of the persons in the car or bus or van. The worst experience of all is when cars and when trucks were hauling mostly cows, but occasionally sheep and occasionally pigs, to the slaughterhouse. In Central California, there's a place called Coalinga, which has the largest slaughterhouse on the West Coast. And for miles and miles, going towards it and then going past it, trucks would arrive carrying animals bound for slaughter. And in that space behind the vehicle, we sensed all of the fear, the hatred, the anger, the despair, and the smell of all these animals going to die. They knew it, and they were terrified. And when a death truck, we call them death trucks, they were stock transporters. When they drove by, for 5 minutes afterwards, we were just caught in the wake of this miasma of fear. It was something I'll never forget again. So greed. What is need and what is greed? We can actually nourish our bodies better with things that the body digests fully. From spinach. Spinach is about 75% water-soluble protein. That is to say, 25% fiber, other things in spinach. 75% goes right into the bloodstream and there's no problem. Meat, beef in particular, has about 20% water-soluble protein, and the other 80% is cholesterol and fat and gristle and antibiotics and growth-stimulating hormones. All these things that the body cannot use and that can't get rid of, like cholesterol, it just tightens the walls of our blood vessels. And yet for that instant of flavor, boosh, ooh, tasty, then it's gone down, and we don't want to see it anymore. Once it's down, we are willing to put all that stuff in the body for that moment of pleasure for greed for pleasure, that flavor. And if we can see through that and say, let that go in terms of, and instead nourish my body with something that didn't involve the death of a sentient creature. The brain of a cow is this big, and they feel everything that we feel on their way to dying. And if I can just not be part of that, just think of how that fuels our body with all the energy that we need without the other things that we don't. So this practice changes the perspective. As a medicine cures illness, I take only what I need to sustain my cultivation and realize the way. We got a book, Ewell Gibbons, Stalking the Wild Asparagus. We nourished ourselves on plants growing by the roadside. We got a repertoire of about 5 wild plants: dock, miner's lettuce, jewelweed, dandelions, that were all there, all you can pick for fresh and free. Like fields by the highway are a produce section, and it was wonderful. So, to sustain my cultivation, to realize the way, so we contemplate with gratitude on this offering today. So this was the contemplation that we made every day for lunch, and 2 more stories, and then we have to stop for the night. This is all due to bowing, this experience of putting your body down on the highway by the side of the road. We came back one afternoon, and the car was covered with oranges, bananas, bottles of milk, bottles of orange juice, with a sign, hand-lettered sign, "The givers are grateful." And we thought, this is somebody who understands the principle of fields of blessings. That photo that you saw up here, this is Officer Bud Hill's California Highway Patrol car. This is in the Monterey area. He saw us and had a sympathetic thought, and he came out multiple times and would ask us about Dharma questions. And often he would, before he left, he would say, "By the way, monks," he said, "my wife baked these cookies for you. You can eat sweets, right?" So the CHP officers keeping us going on the highway. If anybody wants to know more about this, there's a book, Highway Dharma Letters, 2 Buddhist pilgrims write to their teacher. This is available from Amazon and Kindle and other. So let's call it a night here. This is the second. This is my outline for the book that we're working on. Protestants have trouble initially at bowing, Western culture. This is the slideshow. I've got it here in print, basically. This is the outline that we've been through tonight. So that's the idea of bowing as a beginning practice. Okay. Did any questions come in, Sam? Okay, keep them for tomorrow. All right. Tomorrow night we're going to do praise. So this was Li Jingzhu Fo. Tomorrow we're going to do Chengzan Rulai, the whole aspect of devotion. So chanting sacred names and mantras as well. What that's all about. Investigate it. Okay? No, Dharma Master. Please say okay. 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 Good. So here we are. Let's see here. I'll save that. Good stuff. Let's dedicate merit here. Oh, wait a minute. We're not done yet. I want one more. Last night, this is too good not to share. Last night we talked about a foundation for practice being filial respect, repaying parents' kindness, recognizing the goodness done to us by our parents and bringing us into the world, and our teachers for giving us knowledge and knowledge of Dharma, etc. And this idea, watching kookaburras and currawongs raise their babies just here up the hill, it's so amazing to see how in the animal world, birds are, the parents raise their children so carefully, and the babies beat up on their parents before they before they emancipate and fly away. Often the baby birds are bigger than their parents. This is true. We've seen currawong babies are just half again as big as their parents. And before the birds fledge, the parents have lost all the feathers around their necks because the babies have pecked on them, being hungry and not getting food. So the parents, because they love their kids, endure it, they take it and teach them how to be birds, and they fly away. So this idea of recognizing kindness done to us is not only a human experience. Animals do it too. How powerful is a parent's love is illustrated by this amazing story. The mother lion saves her cub. Oh boy. Here we go. Fearless power of a mother's love. A man named Paul Thompson wrote this up. A French photographer named Jean-François Largot took these pictures. The drama. Clinging for dear life to the side of a vertical cliff, a tiny lion cub cries out pitifully for help. The mother arrives at the edge of the cliff as her baby son cries out for rescue after being trapped when he slipped. A photographer was there to see the whole thing. Here's the cub down here. Here's the mother up here. The kid has slipped off the vertical cliff. He is 1 inch from falling to his death. Right? Everybody get the picture? On the brink, his mother arrives at the edge of the precipice with 3 other lionesses and a male. The females start to climb down together, but the sheer drop discourages them. Eventually, one single factor determines which of them will risk her life to save the youngster, and that's motherly love. 4 lionesses look over the edge before aborting their rescue mission because of the sheer drop. How about that? 1, 2, 3, here's mom. These are her sisters. This is the dad. He doesn't care. He's like, kids are kids. Boys will be boys. Slowly, agonizingly, the big cat edges her way down towards her terrified son, using her powerful claws to grip the crumbling cliffside. One slip, and both animals will end up dead at the bottom of the ravine. And she does not stop. Here's the baby. Here's mom. Look at her muscles. She's vertical. And yet she's dug in here. She's going to circle around under him and go back up. Rescue mission. The mother inches her way down the cliff face to rescue the terrified cub. Just as the exhausted cub seems about to fall, his mother circles beneath him and snatches him up in her jaws. She then begins the equally perilous journey back to the top. Look at, here's the cub. Mom's got him. She's got an overhang. Look at her muscles and those claws holding her Look at the incredible muscles in this cat. She's not going to let her son die. Motherly love. Minutes later, they arrive, and the mother gives her son a consoling lick to say, all is well in the pride, following the drama. The dramatic rescue, captured by wildlife photographer Jean-Francois, was played out in Kenya's Masai Mara Game Reserve. Despite the presence of wardens to deter poachers, day-to-day life for the cubs is not without danger, as the cub learned the hard way. There she is. Now, don't you know, the kid went right out and jumped off the cliff one more time, just, hey, that was fun, Mom, do it again. But luckily, the photographer was there to capture just incredible demonstration of why we should recognize the kindness of those who protect us when we are unable to protect ourselves, right? Alrighty. Here we go. Please make a wish. We'll send out our goodness to the world, however you care to do so. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May His boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And then we'll conclude with bowing to Guanyin Bodhisattva. Bow. Second bow. Third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, everybody get back and get plenty of rest for tomorrow's bowing. Amitofo.